up, AU? My name is Kelly ALLEM, and you are watching AU in View. We will be covering important news about events and people within the AU community, so stay tuned.
Hey, I'm Salvador Rodriguez. Kelly and I will keep you updated on the latest news at Aurora University and around the community. Aurora University prides itself on having a safe campus environment, but no one's safety is guaranteed if there's an active shooter on campus. That's why Campus Safety is hosting ALLEM, an active shooter survival training designated to evacuate potential victims quickly. ALLEM stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. It is important to have Campus Safety's phone number on speed dial, because in a situation like this, you want to get help as soon as possible. In the meantime, you will know how to survive until help arrives. On Monday, November 20th, Campus Safety will be hosting another active shooter training in Perry Theater from 8 p.m. until 9:30 p.m. The phone number for Campus Safety is as follows: 630-844-6140, and the email address is cpsafety@aurora.edu.
At Aurora University, many students have it easy. Walking from classroom back to one's dorm is nothing compared to what some students in China are facing today. According to the Chinese Ministry of Environmental Protection, the air quality in 265 of the 338 major Chinese cities exceeded the national health standard for the last year. China is not the only place dealing with extreme air pollution. Unfortunately, there are 4.5 million people around the world that are exposed to air pollution and that are affected by the consequences, such as heart and asthma attacks, strokes, and other various conditions. Next time you are late to class because it's too cold outside, just remember how truly blessed each one of us really is to study at a school with clean and healthy air to breathe deeply and think clearly.
In 1989, 5 black and Latino teenagers were arrested and convicted for attacking and sexually assaulting a white female jogger in New York City's Central Park. The young men would spend several years in prison before they were found not guilty. The Central Park 5 tells the story of the young men and how their lives were changed forever. The movie will be shown tonight, Wednesday, November 1st, in Tapper Recital Hall in the Shingothi Center at 7 p.m. Go to auartsandideas.com to register.
For those of you who signed up for Fright Fest, remember, the trip to Great America is this Saturday, November 4th. The bus leaves the STEM parking lot at 10 a.m., so be sure to arrive early so you don't get left behind. We will be taking a short break and we'll be back with AU in View featuring Dr. Kane, a biology professor right here at AU, so stay tuned. Welcome back, AU. I'm Kelly ALLEM. I am here with Dr. James Kane, Assistant Professor of Biology at Aurora University, here to answer some questions about air pollution. Hi, welcome to the show.
Nice to meet you.
Can you tell the AU students a little about what you teach here?
Sure, I teach in the biology department, most of the human side of biology, not as much plants and animals. So mostly human biology, physiology, health, along those lines.
Okay, so what can you tell us about our air pollution in the Chicagoland area and how it's changed in the last 10 years?
Sure, so I do want to add a disclaimer that I'm not an environmental biologist, but I do have some background as I've read a lot about the health implications of air pollution. So I do have a good background, especially Chicago history, so I can add what I can, but it is mostly a health thing. So as far as the last 10 years, so Chicago is interesting because it used to be one of the most polluted cities air-wise in the United States. So back in 1871, the Great Chicago Fire, there was, so there's already some industry building up, but after the city burned down, or a large chunk of it, and they rebuilt it with, at the time, modern industry, which was a lot of coal-fired electricity and steam power, which ran on coal burning. So there was soot everywhere, and it was considered one of the worst polluted cities in the world. I think second to Pittsburgh, maybe, and New York was up there. So it got to the point where there would be, like it would block out the sun on certain days. There'd be soot that would get in storefronts, and they'd have to come out and wipe down the windows, and also they did some autopsies of people at the time. They found that they had black lung, kind of like coal miners, even though they weren't coal miners. So, so very early on, Chicago was one of the worst cities, but that was great in a way because it forced the government, the city of Chicago, to spearhead clean air initiatives. So we were actually one of the first cities to have sort of a clean air revolution. Now, mind you, it took about 100 years for that to take roll, or actually have an impact. So around 1970s, that's when a lot of actual legislation passed, and there was some legislation along the way. But when we really got into the 60s, it was like, okay, we've had enough of this newer technology. So they started shifting some stuff around, and a lot of the initiatives based on infrastructure, more electricity for trains rather than coal-fired trains, and just in general cleaner technologies, less industry, and automotive technology improved. So with that, we actually became one of the cleanest cities. I would say cleanest of some of the larger cities in the United States, because the worst are in California. As progressive as they are with clean energy, they've been forced to because they've had air pollution. They've not quite caught up to Chicago and some of the other cities. So now, fast forward, I guess, to where we are now. Last 10 years, not really a lot's changed in a good way. We've actually improved our air quality, and we're pretty much maintaining. But there are actually, the city of Chicago is, the Department of Energy has a Clean Cities program. Chicago's part of that, and that's identified by spearheading clean initiatives through infrastructure, so electric infrastructure for cars, technology, finding alternative fuels that are cleaner, both for vehicles and also industry, and a number of other programs throughout the city to help not only industries but people. So that and a number of similar programs have been going on for the past probably 15, 20 years. Some are a little bit newer, and so we've continued to maintain our air quality, which is pretty good. If you look at air quality scales, the air quality index, Chicago's actually, I think our average, the scale's like 0 to 500. Anything over 300 is like, emergency, everyone goes inside. But anything up to like 50 or something is considered good. And we've actually, we hover around 37, I think, 38 most days. Now Chicago. If you look actually where Aurora University is, we're a little bit further away from the industry, so we actually have about the similar or a little bit better air quality. But yeah, so as far as that goes, we're actually in a good place. Now, we do still have like air warnings, air quality warnings for even Aurora, but Chicago, and that's nothing to really get worried about. It's when we creep into the next kind of moderate category, which is like, for some people that are really young or really old or have lung problems, you might experience some discomfort.
Pain in the chest?
Not exactly pain, but discomfort,
Okay.
Breathing problems. Maybe they have asthma that's triggered more easily. But realistically, it's not too bad. So, as far as, are we really concerned about people's health? It's more like we want to keep the air good, not we're, like freaking out like some larger cities abroad that, you hear about in India and China, where they've got like smog that, you can't even see, beyond 100 feet because it's so bad.
Well, that's good to hear. Only improvement from here on up. What are your feelings on how everyday routine has changed for college students walking to class in other countries, and how being outside is even harmful for those students to walk to class?
So you'll see these pictures of them. They wear those masks, kind of like like illness masks, where to not spread germs, and it's to keep out particulate. So there are a few different kinds of air pollution. Some are based on certain gases that are toxic to us, mainly from industrial waste. Most pollution worldwide, even in those countries, is particulate, and that's why it looks hazy, because there's actually fine, think of it like dust floating in the air, and that particulate is really damaging the lungs. And so you can actually block it out by wearing a really fine particulate blocking mask. Some people just wear like sheets or cloth, and you might catch the biggest stuff. But really, there's really fine particulate that you can't see. And so you have to get these special masks that are rated for it, and they actually sell out regularly. So you will see that they're trying to be proactive and that they understand it's bad, but life has to carry on. So, they try to wear these masks. So as far as the daily routine goes, you have to go to school, you got to go to work. What else are you going to do? You're just going to try to protect yourself the best you can.
I even discussed with other students, such as even when you drive up to fast food and you have to roll your window down just to get food from the window inside your car, that's even harmful with particles coming in.
It is, absolutely. In fact, there's lots of research on this. If you drive in traffic versus driving on a less busy road, you're exposed to more particulate matter and volatile fumes that are bad for us. I usually would recommend that if you're going to be in especially standstill traffic or heavy traffic on the interstate or around town, turn the air circulation on inside air. So if you, say, park in a less dense area and you start circulating that air, that's the air you keep while you're driving through the more busy areas. Around Aurora University, it's not as bad because even what we might consider heavy traffic isn't that bad. But yeah, I mean, if you're driving down the interstate or walking and a car drives by, or especially like the big trucks that carry the rocks around here, and just brrr, you know, the gray smog that comes out of the exhaust, or if you could smell it, it's like, yeah, like you kind of choke a little bit. We actually have receptors in the lungs that when that particulate irritates them, one of the reflexes is it keeps us from inhaling and actually tries to protect our lungs from that. But yeah, you might get hold your breath, yeah. I guess. Try to walk on streets that are not as busy. I mean, but then we're looking at like a little bit of exposure versus, in the grand scheme of health, you know, a little bit, which is really nothing to really worry about, but maybe over the course of a lifetime it might add up. But you know, if people do want to take as many precautions as possible, they could certainly do those things. I will say, though, that there's been some other good research that even people living in cities, like in Chicago and other dense cities around the world, if you walk or bike to work, are you at some kind of health disadvantage because you're actually breathing more air, because you're breathing heavier when you're exercising, even if you're just walking, versus being in a car driving to work? Is it actually bad for you to walk in those urban environments? And for the most part, the research shows that exercise is overwhelmingly better. The benefits from exercise far outweigh the health detriments from the air pollution. Now, during peak times like rush hour, it's actually not, you know? So if you are a cyclist or you do walk specifically as your main commute, try to go in off-peak times or on streets that are less busy.
Okay. That's all the time we have for today with Professor Kane. Check out auspartannews.com for more news stories in the AU community like this. Thanks again for tuning in with Sal and I, and we'll see you next time on AU in View.